In this video tutorial, we're going to look at some more school words and how they're written in kanji. We're going to start off with the word for teacher. We should know that it's sensei, but let's look at the kanji that we use to write it. It's these two kanji here. The first one has the original meaning, you can see here, of ahead or in front of, and that makes up the first character of our two that we're going to use to write sensei. Let's have a look at its origin, and then we can have a look at the stroke order and a way that we can remember it. Now this is the character here. Its modern version is over here and it means in front of. This is what it looked like 2,000 years ago, and then the older kanji are under here. You can see, I think, quite easily that those two there are supposed to be human legs. So there you have them, look. Human legs, all sorts of variations on human legs. The bit on the top is a forward footprint. And that's a little bit obscure. So I'm going to take you now to my whiteboard where I'm going to show you a better way to remember it. Here's our kanji. Now I think these two strokes, 1, 2, they're quite straightforward. They're human legs. They're odd human legs, but I think they're quite easy to remember as human legs. Now they're the bottom of our kanji, so we're going to draw them last. Now the top portion is what originally meant a forward footprint, but it's obscure. So I want to take you over here to have a look at the kanji, which means cow. And you can see that if I remove this bottom portion here, the top bit is virtually identical to the top bit over here. Now the meaning of this kanji is cow or bull. And if we look at its original pictograph, you can see why. Okay, here's the kanji 2,000 years ago, but if you go back a little further to the bronze characters, they're up to 3,000 years, you can clearly see the horns there and the ears. So they're the horns and the ears of a bull or a cow. Now, if we think of this top portion as being a cow, and we write it over here, then we have the horn here on the left, and across over here, that's the other horn. There's the head of our bull, and that line is across his nose. Now this gives us a cow on human legs. It means in front of because a teacher leads the way. But I think it's quite easy for students to remember this character as a cow on human legs. At least my students have always been rather taken with that description of a teacher. Okay, so we've got our first kanji here. We know it means ahead because a teacher walks ahead of us. We know that it looks like a cow, and we've got human legs underneath. And here it is over here. It's pronounced sen. So all we need to do is add this character, which is pronounced sei, and we get sensei, which is the kanji for teacher. So let's go down and have a look at this character and see what its core meaning is. Here it is over here, and it's got a core meaning, a base meaning of alive. Of course, you know that you can't simply use this character to mean alive in a sentence like I am alive and just pop this character. This is simply its root, core or original meaning, but we need to learn exactly how and when we use this character. So, alive. In this character we can see that it looks very much like a plant growing taller and having shoots growing up like that. Let's look at some of the older versions. I think it's easy to see where they were coming from. A plant growing up. Here's one with some more sprouting leaves and shoots. The older version, let's just go down and look just for fun. Again, it really does look like a plant growing out of the ground. Before we have a look at our main kanji over here, which means to be alive, which as we saw was the picture of that growing plant, let's have a look at a similar kanji over here. Now this kanji means earth or ground or dirt, and you can see it shows 2 leaves. We'll actually turn them into leaves, and a stalk down the middle and the ground on the bottom. And that kanji, if it's written on its own, means dirt, ground or earth. Now over here we can see that we've got the same leaves here, we've got the ground, but our plant has been growing up and it's got this little extra bit, which is where we start. And this is the bit which I like to think of as a rather lovely flower. So we've got a flower growing here on the left hand side. Then we're going to put our leaves in across there. So that's our second stroke. Then we're going to pop our stalk in. That goes down for our third stroke. Then we've got our 2 earlier leaves. That's our fourth stroke. And here we've got the ground. So if we just look at the stroke order without the pretty flower, we get ichi, ni, sang, shi, go, the kanji for alive. And this is added to all sorts of other kanji to indicate some kind of living person. And your teacher may well be a cow on human legs, but he or she is also alive. So we're going to use it to finish our word for teacher, sensei. We'll just go back to the top of the page here. Sen plus sei equals sensei. Sensei or teacher. And you can use these to practice your lovely kanji shape. The next word we're going to be focusing on is here, and it's the Japanese word for primary school student. Have a look first of all at that last kanji. That's the one we've just learned. It's the one you see over here, and it means alive. And it goes on the end to represent the student. That's the living thing. But to this kanji, we've got to add the word for learning and the word for small. So a small learning alive thing is a shōgakusei. There it is in hiragana, shōgakusei. And that's the way the Japanese say a primary school student. To write that, we already know the sei, so we have to look at the kanji for small and the kanji for learning. Let's begin with small. Here it is. There's the core meaning of small. And let's have a look at its origin. Originally meaning to split off, in other words, to make small. And you can see in the pictures of the ancient characters, something has been split off. But we have a better way of remembering small. I like, of course, to remember this as our small man. Here's his body. We'll pop his head. We'll give him 2 little legs. And he's got his arms not stretched out great wide like big, but he's got them down by his side, making him look small. Let's remove those great big wide arms, his head and his feet, and we get left with just the body and those arms being small. Okay, there's the small character. Now we need to look at the character for learning. Okay, on top we have what looks like a katakana tsu. Ich, ni, san. And that's actually the learning that's being pushed down there through the school roof. There's the roof here. Ichi, a cross and a little ticky thing there. Then underneath we've got the little child with all that learning being stuffed into it. There's its head. And then its little body, and there its arms across there. So there we have gaku, learning. Okay, we now put those 3 characters together, small, learning, and alive, and we get shōgakusei, primary school student. Let's go down and have a look at our next word. Our next word is a middle learning student, a chūgakusei. Chūgakusei. We know gaku. We know sei, and the word for middle. Let's have a look at the kanji for middle one more time. This character appears to come from weaving, when a string heddle, which is this bit here, is absolutely necessary to be centered correctly. So there's the weaving, the loom, and this string part comes down here, and it must be absolutely in the center. So if we just scroll down and have a look at the characters as they used to look, there we can kind of see that string always going down the middle there. So we've got that representing, I suppose, the loom, and then the string going down the center. Here it is in its most recent historic form, so 2,000 years ago, the string going down the center, and this is what it looks like over here today. It's very easy to see that as meaning center, isn't it, or middle. Now this character has got our classic box shape in the middle. So we go down on the left, the stroke order never changes, a cross on the right, all in one, going round the corner and down, and then finish our box off, and finally a single stroke straight down the middle. And there we have our character for middle or center, chu. Okay, we have middle, learning, alive, chūgakusei, a junior high school or middle school student. It's quite easy to remember chūgakusei because they're the ones who chew gum. Finally, on page 18, we have a tall school, alive. Notice this one differs slightly from the previous pattern. With primary school and junior high school or middle school student, we had the small in the middle first, then we had the learning character, then we had alive. But this one is different. We've got the tall, but instead of the learning or gaku, we've got the character for school or call. And then we've got the character for alive, and that gives us call, say. Let's remind ourselves what the characters for call or hi look like and why they're written the way they are, and also the character for call. We're going to start with the roof of the building, and it's got a nice little chimney. So we're going to pop the chimney on the roof. Then we're going to go the roof next, working from top to bottom, left to right. Then we've got one of these classic shapes. On its own, it would be a mouth, but these box shapes always go down on the left, across and round, all in one on the right, and close it off if there's nothing in the middle. Then we're going to do a similar shape, but we're not going to be closing it off. These are the walls of the first floor. There's the ceiling of the first floor, down here, all in one on the right. You can kick off if you wish, but that's entirely optional. But that leads you over to this stroke here, another box starting down on the left, as we always do, across and down in one on the right, and finish it off. And there we have tall or high. Okay, let's first of all start with the stroke order of the tree on the left. So it's going to go across, because that's our top stroke. Then we're going to go down, that's stroke number 2, ni. Then we've got one branch, and the next, notice this branch is a little short. That's because we're squishing this left-hand character or element into a composite character. And to do that, we just squish it up a little bit so that there's room for this on the right-hand side. Now this bit here is composed of, on the top, what looks identical to the number 6. And if you recall, the stroke order is down, ichi, across for ni, san goes that way, and shi is across like that. So we've got the number 6 there. And then here we've got what looks very much like cross legs. Ancient Japanese buildings were always made from wood. And so you can see the tree here on the left indicates it's something made from wood. And then you've got 6 children all with their legs crossed. Okay, so we get high and school and living thing, and we get koukosei, senior high school student.